I am really, really happy to welcome just another wonderful member of the Warrior family, and I do mean family because everyone that I have spoken with, they are a family. They text, they root for each other. They're still together, even though they haven't been shooting for almost what? It's definitely been at least a year and a half, but it's been getting close to 2 years now. And yes, we all have our fingers crossed that there will be seasons 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. I'll shut up and welcome to the program, Dustin Nguyen. Welcome, Dustin.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, and hello to everybody on our Facebook groups. Love you guys. I know I haven't talked to you in a little while, but here we go again, and hopefully we'll get more people on from Warrior for you to have these conversations. So Dustin, first time I think I saw you was actually with Brandon Lee as in the Rapid Fire as it relates to your Bruce Lee connection, which has come in and out of your life at least 3 times that I can count on. I know it's probably more than that. So that's the first time I saw you, and then I saw you in bits and pieces after that. I didn't watch 21 Jump Street growing up because I came to the United States a little later. So it wasn't a part of my growing up process. I know a lot of people know you from there, but Warrior is how I got reconnected with you. It's one of my favorite shows. You know that. Everybody else watching knows that as well. Let's jump into Warrior, but then I want to come back to your life and how you got to Warrior. But to satisfy the thirst for everybody who's watching Warrior right now, who misses everything that's Warrior related, let's spend a little time there. So you get to play a really juicy character, Zing. He's really, really interesting guy. People don't know what to think of him or where he's coming in or what his agendas are, and you want to like him because for as brutal as he is, he's very likable. So it's that interesting combination when you get approached by Justin and by Jonathan. Did they tell you a lot about Zing, or did they say, "Hey, we have some ideas. You're not going to do a ton in season 1, but we'll do a lot more in season 2"? What was the approach?
Actually, that's precisely that. It's like they had already started filming season 1 when Justin Lin approached me. Um, so Justin said, we have this idea for this character who's sort of the antagonist, and wants to introduce him in the first season, and he doesn't have a lot to do, and but in the second season, he'll be an important part of the stirring up conflict, and
Yeah.
and that's basically what I knew about Zing. For me, it wasn't so much important as, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I get this
No, of course.
attached, the cord attached. It wasn't so much of like, is it a big role, or is it, how much screen time am I going to have, and all of that. I was very much take my interest in terms of it being the idea that Bruce Lee had sort of been trying to get off the ground, and how it sort of came to Justin's hand through Shannon and all that. And so it's the idea of joining a project that I was gambling, if you will, or I was predicting that has a really high chance of being done with integrity, and possibly create a, a, a pretty strong interest in terms of the subject matter, and at the same time be quite entertaining. And so, and I didn't read any script or anything like that. I mean, the fact that Justin is involved, and then he arranged a meeting for me over. I was in Vietnam at the time, over virtual or Skype or something, with Jonathan Chopra, who, as you well know by now, is their day-to-day showrunner. And I just had a very wonderful talk with Jonathan. He was just so gracious, and just generous, and he's basically just like, hey, we really would love it if you come on the show as this character, and I'm kind of like, that's it, I don't need to read script or anything like that, and that's kind of how I got started. And then as we move along, of course, into towards the end of season 1. Well, before I came on, in all fairness, I did say to Justin, I said, look, I direct now, and I would love to be considered to direct some of the shows, down the road. Should we go second season or whatever? And so I kind of like sort of put that out there, with very realistic thoughts, because I know that these kind of things where, the network, in this case HBO, they have their own list of directors that are tried and true and so on. And so but anyway, so I came on, and it's exactly what I thought it is. Now I didn't have a lot of expectations in terms of what kind of people I'm going to be working with, because you just you show up to work. But it was so pleasant to get there and meet such a great group of people. Now everybody was gelling already by the time I arrived, and I just felt really welcomed, and just got into it. And next thing we did season 2, and beginning of season 2, Jonathan said, well, look, I like to give you an episode to direct, and we just got to try to work it out in the writing where I'm not acting, and it's conflicting with, when you direct, actually, it's not just the episode you're directing, it's the previous prep time and all of that. And so they were able to work it out, and in the end, I was just thrilled.
Yeah, and episode 6 was the one that you directed in season 2. Wasn't that the last episode shot after everybody that, unless they were a part of this, everybody wrapped? I think you had an injury at that time, and you were still shooting, episode 6, and then everybody was done. So that was the last thing that anybody has done in Warrior. That's it, wrap.
Yes, it was. I think a lot of it had to do with the logistics that I was just mentioning, where because typically what we call the standalone episode, in season 1 they had episode 5, and then in season 2 episode 6, where a few integral characters would go away from San Francisco, and the rest of the cast basically get to go home. And they put it at the end of the season, wisely so, because you don't want people sitting around who are not in this episode and with nothing to do. And then, of course, that's the episode that Zing is not in,
right?
And so it works out great. But I did tore my knee up pretty good towards the end of my fight with Joe Taslim in episode 5.
I know. Oddly enough, it actually worked out because it was episode 5. Yeah.
Well, luckily for us, after that, Zing goes to jail, and there's no more fighting and anything like that. And I believe Joe kind of tweaked his knee as well, not to the degree that I did with mine, but yeah, I mean, it was a situation. It was really a bummer, Alan, because I was like, oh man, I'm limping around now, and the schedule is locked in. Of course, I don't want to miss out on all of some prep that I've done for episode 6, and I just figure, not to try to be a hero or anything, but I just kind of wrapped up my knee, and I can't get it operated, right away, because it would mean that I'd be out of commission. So basically, I just kind of hobbled along on it for another month or so, and finish episode 6, and had the greatest time at the time of my life.
Yeah, it's definitely, again, it's one of my favorite episodes. All the homage to Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, but it was a great episode for many reasons. And then to find out, because I didn't know obviously while watching that you were injured, but then to find out kind of the background of what happened, I'm like, oh, okay, talking about a real warrior of having to do it on a banged up knee. Yikes.
It's it's one of those things again where I was so into what was going on. There were days when I was on set. The thing about knee injury is, it hurts like hell when and then after a week or two when the swelling goes down, um, you can actually, hobble around decently as long as you don't put a lot of pressure on it, or especially side to side motion. So I kind of forget that I actually have this knee injury until, moments, and there were a few of those where I get so excited about something, and when I'm, direct, I love to be on my feet a lot, and interacting with the actors is very important to me, and you jump up, or you go too fast and your knee buckle, and oh god, and then Andrew or Tobin, Jason and Chen and Maria, oh god, watch out for your knee, and other than those moments, you're just so swept up with the fun of it. Yeah, and the other option was the producer was going to have somebody kind of push me around on a wheelchair, which was not an option for me.
No, no.
It would do dishonor to Zing.
I think so. But as a martial artist, because you are a martial artist, so as a martial artist, doing an episode and directing an episode where you're paying homage to Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, you have real fighters in there in addition to everybody else. You know, I'm not a real fighter. I have martial arts background, but I would want to, get in there and just and do something. And to have a knee injury at that time must have sucked.
Oh, it was killing me, because I mean, I'm not a macho guy or anything, but when you're around all of that, like you said,
Exactly.
you just want to get involved too. I mean, it's
Right.
we have so much fighting, as people who are fans of the show, goes without saying. But this particular episode, we're just thrilling because, again, one, it's a homage to Enter the Dragon in our own ways, but it's the one episode where you actually can put different styles of martial arts into the story, and it makes sense. So where it doesn't feel forced, right? I mean, versus if you're in San Francisco, Chinatown, like the other episodes, and all of a sudden you got a capoeira guy showing up, it's like, hey, come on,
No. Yeah.
But so in this case, I was very excited when I found out that I was going to do this episode, because, and then of course, I started to think of, I was like saying to Brett, and man, I know we're limited on funds, because by the time they get to my episode, there's like no money left, right? And we've gone through just about every great fighter slash stunt slash actor. I mean, we recycle them so much in season 1 and 2 with various disguises that I actually got a list from makeup and wardrobe department, especially makeup, where they just had names was like, look, you cannot reuse these guys anymore. I mean, we just don't know what else to do with them, except for giving them a third eye. And so it was very challenging. And, and I was, the one thing I said to Brett, I said, look, I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't care if we have to move the budget around. I need to have a capoeira martial artist in this environment, So when you kind of think of all these various forms of martial arts that hasn't been introduced, from for the fans, for one, and then two, I think it was an important episode in terms of the journey, Assam's journey as a fighter, and how he has to sort of adapt and evolve. In San Francisco, he beat, when he fights somebody, the best that comes up against him are boxers and street fighters, and like Leong, who's an extremely good martial artist. But it's, in this tournament, it's the first time that he has to sort of, as Bruce Lee says, flow with it and adapt to various opponents, and hopefully grow from that. Evolve as a martial artist. So there's that element that we wanted to keep in the episode. So you have to have him go up against various opponents.
Yeah. It's really interesting because, again, as a director, because you're being a martial artist, being in a lot of martial arts films, knowing a lot of the other martial arts films that are around, you also don't want to do anything that was already done in, The Quest or Bloodsport or any of the other kind of homages to Bruce Lee. And it's a difficult thing to play with. But what you did really well in that episode, among other things, is you finally see Assam being a little worried, because usually when he fights, it's only in a few places where he's worried. Leon was one. He obviously had to really kind of worry about, Dean Jagger. Hey, Dean, if you're watching that fight. But this is the only other time where I saw that he's like, ooh, okay, I don't know about this. And you're seeing that in his eyes. I love that, because it's the growth of the character, as you're mentioning, of he has to adapt, he has to adjust, he has to get to that next level. It was really good to see.
Well, I'm glad you appreciated it. It's always nice to hear from people and from the fans who see these nuances. And in the end, as one of the things that I always repeat that I'm very proud of Warrior is, I think we do a fairly good job delivering the martial arts, but it's the drama and the characters and I think that is important. And yes, it's an homage to Enter the Dragon in this case with episode 6. But if you don't by this time, certainly if you don't care about certainly uh, uh, the characters like Assam and Vega and that relationship that they have, um, then the episode is nothing but just a bunch of fighters fighting. So what was very important to me from the get go. I mean, the action. Not to come off sounding what's the word I'm looking for? Complacent, anything. I never was worried so much about the action. I mean, there are challenges, like I mentioned, logistically speaking, but I was very concerned that if I don't deliver on the relationship with Assam and Vega, uh, people who've seen the episode obviously know what I'm talking about, how it ended and the impact it has on Assam's journey, not only as a martial artist, but as a man for the first time, possibly connect with somebody that kind of on his level and makes him think
Yeah.
about things. And so that was, to me, that was something that I could not. If I failed to deliver that, then I failed.
You're right. No, it was very powerful, and I unfortunately knew that something bad was going to happen. So it was not as much of a surprise as it probably was to people who were not expecting it. I interviewing people, a few things, and this was one of those moments where I'm like, yeah, I know. Oh, that's what's gonna. Okay, bad. Okay, so it's one of those things, but it was really, really, really well done. And going back to just the last piece of the episode 6, the fight and just one kick that ended one of the fights. It reminded me really of the Indiana Jones moment, of that kind of stare down and the gun and you're done and turn around. It was that kind of a moment where there is enormous amount of buildup and you know that something is going to happen and then you go different. It was very, very enjoyable.
Cool. Well, the predictable thing, the predictable thing to do, and not that it's a bad thing to do, was to have Mike Bisping and Andrew Koji duke it out. I mean, this is like the one chance we have, like Mike Bisping on the show, right?
Yep.
And again, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it was just really smartly handled by the writers, and and Jonathan was very clear to me that there's a purpose around that one hit that ended the fight, because not that we're short of fights in this episode. I mean, after that, there's so many fights that okay, so you're gonna deliver another good fight for sure, but it's one of the many in the episode. So what is the maximum dramatic value that you can get out of this kind of a situation? And So in the end, I'm glad you appreciate it, because there might be some people go, oh man, you have Mike Bisping and you don't take advantage of it. So yeah.
It was again so many enjoyable fights, and me as a martial arts guy, I loved every part of it. But that was very dramatic for me. Chan's boots fight, that was wonderful. I enjoyed that tremendously. That whole episode is just, I'm telling you, it's one of my favorite episodes. Even if you didn't direct it, it would still be one of my favorite episodes. So the interesting thing for me is that you've directed an episode, and as a director you have a different way of analyzing characters. You care about, I need to make sure that Assam, we show his growth, and we show all of the things with Assam. We show this, we show that. Zing is coming back. Yes, I am not bringing anything, I don't know anything, but there has to be season 3, 4, 5. Zing is getting out of jail, we know that. So now as an actor playing Zing, because you can put the director's head aside, but you're still in an environment where you already analyzed and you care about other characters. As an actor, does that ever enter, move from the subconscious to the conscious of you caring about the people in the scene when you're not supposed to care about the people in the scene as Zing?
Well, I mean, obviously, I haven't done this yet where I'm actually acting, in
Yeah.
this case being and directing at the same time,
Yep.
because I've done that with other films. It's not something you want to do.
No.
But so to answer your question, no, because in this case when I'm acting, when I'm being Zing, then I just focus on that, of course. So I don't really think much about character development. I mean, my own character, yes, but other characters and all of that, not that I need to, because first of all, it's wonderfully written, and then all of the actors, as you well know, on the show are more than well prepared and seasoned performers. So they bring to it, So when I'm doing Zing, I just worried about my, not worried, but I just pay attention to my own character, and that's it really. I don't really think about, oh, if I was directing the scene, I would do it like this. It never crossed my mind.
Good. Again, I've never been in that situation, so I don't know. So that's why it's interesting for me in terms of curiosity of how that works.
I mean, yeah, I think everybody's different. For me, it's gotten to the point where it's very easy for me to turn off and on switch. Like I can turn
Good.
off my director switch, and my acting switch. Like I mentioned, I've done a couple times where I had to act and direct in the same films for financial reason, and it's very tough. And I've learned to do that. When I'm okay, it's time for me to act now, and then you turn off that's the director switch. But it's very hard. It's very hard to. It's easier to turn off the acting switch when I'm directing, right? Because anybody who directs will tell you the same thing. The amount of concentration and work that comes with directing is 100 times more than acting. So it's very easy when you're directing, being overwhelmed with everything, to just completely forget about acting obligations until the AD say, "Oh, by the way, you're up next. Also you're going to be on screen as well." But you have to learn. I've learned to sort of turn off and on, but I do find turning off the director switch is harder, because I've been in situations where I'm acting, I'm doing my close-ups, and while I'm acting, I'm thinking, I just saw something from the actor acting opposite me off camera, where I was like, when I turn around on this person, I need to make this adjustments, right? So you're doing that while you're acting, which is not the way to do it. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast.
It's true. I understand that. I haven't done it, but being the analytical, writer that I am, it's difficult to get out of the head and make sure that you're doing it instead of worrying about, where is the shot? Is this the proper shot that I should be doing it? No, we need to change this. You can't. You have to be in that space, otherwise it doesn't work, or you're at least not 100% in terms of acting. I also, just in case that people are thinking that, when you said for financial reasons when you had to act and direct, I know you don't mean that because it was for you financial. It's just in filmmaking, in order for you to do a project, in order for the producers to approve it, they may have asked you to do both of those things. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, what I meant in my particular case in Vietnam, and and, when these things happened was basically, the very first time I made my directorial debut, and there was a Vietnamese film called Once Upon a Time in Vietnam, my homage to the spaghetti western genre.
Mhm.
At that time, the budget was is very high for Vietnam, and in order to raise that money as a producer, which I was as well. Um, the investors wanted me to also star in it, right? Because there's some benefits for them if I star in it in Vietnam, and because of my profile there, and for whatever that's worth. But it's a trade-off. It's like, okay, so I'm trying to get somebody to let me direct for the first time. Not only that, on a film that's a really high budget, it's a big risk for everybody. So in order to get this made, I just got to bite the bullet and do whatever it takes, right? So that's what I mean by financial reason. There's reason why the only way they will finance this is if I act in it as well, and you actually don't get paid extra. But I didn't because again, not that that's the rule, but you're kind of like this is the other problem too. It's like if you're involved in if you're wearing that many hats. Um, at least I do. You go, it's something you shouldn't be doing, but you're going. Well, if I take an acting salary on this, that's less money going on the screen, right? And because not, if I wasn't directing, I probably wouldn't care. Not that don't care. That's not what I mean. But because I'm directing the first time and I'm producing, I want to deliver a good product as much as I can on a limited budget. And so you go, well, if I take the acting salary could actually buy me an extra day of shooting or whatever, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
these things kind of come into play, and then next thing you know, you end up doing it, and then halfway through it, you wish you haven't done it because you're like staggering home every night because it's just so demanding.
Yeah, directing, from what I heard, directing is the most difficult thing that you can do. It just you never have enough time. It's draining, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's the most exhilarating thing for me. I love directing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, just we're just talking about logistical challenges and stuff. It's for me, that's my biggest passion is doing that, and I get so much pleasure from it. Um, like I said, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's been something that I want to do ever since I was a young man. And acting was never my thing, and so to be able to do it, um, it just kind of surreal. I mean, sometimes even now, sometimes whenever I'm on the set, I just have so much joy being there, and sometimes you just kind of look around and I remember there was a moment on Warrior on episode 6. I'm usually like one of the first people to come in the morning. I like to get there really early and just kind of have the space to myself, and
Hmm.
as a director trying to prepare, but then you get that kid inside you, just looking around at the set, the tournament set, the Rooker's headquarter, and all the wonderful work that goes into building this set, and you got various craftsmen running around prepping it for the day, and then next thing you know, you got hundreds of extra coming in on some of the big days, and this particular day, that was just this really long, the longest dolly track that I've ever laid down for a shot, and you look at these things, and you just can't help but going, wow, I'm actually doing this, directing this, it outweighs anything out there for me. It's,
That's fantastic. I'm very happy that you have a chance to experience that. Not a lot of people do. These childhood dreams to then get into a position where you see that become reality is a really important part. So I'm glad you have. I want to get to the Bruce Lee connection, and I've mentioned the first time that I saw you in Rapid Fire. So and you did, the Levi's commercial. That was, I think, even before that, right? Yeah. So
the Levi's commercial was after Rapid Fire.
it was okay.
It's after
Interesting.
Rapid Fire. It's after Rapid Fire. I'm very sure. Yeah.
What was it like working with Brandon? I just a tidbit of the personal thing. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee. I started martial arts because of him. Yada yada yada. And then when Brandon came on the scene, I started following him. I was crying. I was in a very sad state for probably a week after he died. So Brandon's passing was a big shock to me. He was really talented and a wonderful actor and a great martial artist. What was it like for you to? I know you're a Bruce Lee fan as well. What was it like to work with his son?
Well, I mean, that's you said it right there. You're working with Bruce Lee's son, but obviously Brandon is so aware of that shadow, for better or for worse, that he goes out of his way to shake that shadow. You're not in shame or anything like that, but what I mean is, like, when I obviously I can only speak personally. When I met him for the first time, he was just a guy, even though he's Bruce Lee's son and all the build up and all of that. And we have a lot of scenes together in the film. So gradually, you hang out, you get to know. I got to really know him, and we have some mutual friends already in the martial arts training circle, because I've also trained at the Guru and Dan Ano Santos Academy, and quite a few of us kind of come from that training facility, and so we have various mutual friends, and so when we met up, we had that in common, and then we got to know each other, and him and I at the time sort of had a similar, need for speed. I remember he had bought a Honda Acura. I think it's called Acura. When it first came out, NSX or something, a real fast sports car, Honda, and at the time I also had a very fast sports car, and we would actually used to, go racing on Mulholland Drive. Not a responsible thing to do, but so we had that sort of in common, and then the martial arts, but you get to know Brandon, as a person, and not that he would spill out all of his inner demons or whatever to me, but to answer your question, working with him, I think he knew that film was a really important film for him. He has done a few films before that, but this is the first time he actually is carrying the film, if you will. And it's a studio film, and he knew the importance of it. He put a lot of work into it, and so it goes without saying that he's more than professional on the set. But him and I used to just sort of hang out in his trailer and talk about various things, and talking about acting, things like that. And like I said, without the brand of being Bruce Lee's son, he's just a regular guy in a sense, where and a terrific actor in a sense. You can tell that he has a desire to be a great actor, and he has a desire to do good work. So it's it was quite heartbreaking that
Yeah.
that never came to fruition.
Yeah, very, very sad. My my own martial arts, again, my teacher is from that same family. He trained with Don. Their school is certified by Donna Santo. It's JKD, it's Kali, it's Muay Thai. It's a combination of a group of things. Ron Balicki, all of that stuff. So that's kind of the schools that my son and I go to right now in Chicago,
Oh,
Chicagoland area. So
okay, okay. Well, good,
um,
good. Is your son
I
enjoying it?
he is. I have an 11-year-old, 11 and a half year old son, and he did a couple years of Taekwondo a number of years back. Got some belts, but no offense to Taekwondo, Scott Atkins, if by any chance you're watching this, my apologies. I love Taekwondo and how it looks, but it wasn't as practical in the kind of the way that my son was taught, including some basic things. Right? They want you to break boards, but they don't teach you how to actually properly put your fist together. I was always worried about him actually hurting himself because they didn't teach him how to hit before asking him to hit. Anyway, so I got him out of that school, and I did research on a lot of the other schools in the area, and the NSA, North Shore Academy of Martial Arts, is not far from us, and they have the proper foundation. So I brought him there on a testing, and the first thing they do, here's how you put the hands together. Here's how you throw a straight. Here's how you throw a hook. I looked at the way that they're teaching, and it's the proper curriculum. Like, yep, we're signing up, and he's been good so far. We'll see how it goes, but I like it. I have my Kali sticks right there. Uh, I'm gonna bring them out just because I mentioned it.
There you go.
So here are my Kali sticks, and it's awesome. I really enjoy it, and the fact that it's JKD and it's the right base, and Bruce Lee is hanging on our wall in terms of our lineage. It's here. Sorry, that's enough about enough about me. But we went to Brennan, and now in Warrior, get a chance to work with Shannon. So being connected to the family is a really special thing.
Yeah, I mean, it just I keep
Yeah,
somehow sort of end up being some kind of relation to the Bruce Lee legacy. Now it's Shannon on a show like Warrior, and even before that, I did a film that Justin Lin directed called Finishing the Game, which is
yeah,
Justin's sort of satirical take on what happens after Bruce Lee died, and all of these actors were they were looking to replace Bruce Lee, and
yeah.
um, yeah, so these connections with Bruce Lee through the years been quite interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And then your own martial arts background. I know we just mentioned kind of the Guru Dan, but how did you start? I
I
know.
I too, I too started with Taekwondo
Mhm.
when I was living in St. Louis, Missouri. This is way back. And you're talking 19 in the 70s, in the mid to late 70s.
Yep.
We came to America in 1975 from Vietnam, but so I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I discovered my love for the martial arts when I used to sort of would bicycle back and forth from school every day, and finally just kind of peeking in the studio, and they were teaching taekwondo. This is 1977, yeah, something like that, and finally got enough nerve to talk to the instructor, Mr. Smothers, Jim Smothers, who went on to become invaluable mentor to me, and sort of a surrogate big brother, if you will. Because my parents were, typical immigrant parents are working all the time, and
Yeah.
I didn't really have I didn't really have a social life in school because I was still sort of struggling to fit in, and I wasn't doing any sports in school. So for the first time, I found this family
Mm.
and I found that I was really good at the martial arts, unbeknownst to me. And so, I started studying Taekwondo, and it gave me a lot of foundation. And then I also met during that time, I met some amazing teachers who got me to boxing. At the time in St. Louis, Missouri, with the Spinks brothers, and this Michael Spinks
Yeah.
had just beaten Muhammad Ali. And so I would meet. I got a chance to meet through my teachers. Met Leon Spinks and went to the boxing gym and actually learned, to box, and then that just sort of manifested itself between boxing and the Taekwondo kicking into kickboxing, which is more of an American form of kickboxing in the 70s that were just
Yep.
starting to happen. They call it the PKA, I think
Mhm.
Professional Kickboxing Association. You got legends like, you know, Sensei Benny Akitas and Mike Wallace and Ernest Hart Jr., the welterweight champion who actually became, again, one of my mentors and teachers. So, but I started again. My very first thing was Taekwondo,
Taekwondo.
and it gave me a lot of. It's a foundation for my life to come, and again, it's the teachers. It's I
Yep.
mean the styles. Yes, there are different styles, and some fits you more than others. But in the end of the day, for me, it was the teachers. Mr. Jimmy Smothers and Mr. Ernest Hart Jr. and all of these people I met that took me under the wing and really shaped me into who I am. And it wasn't so much of it was taekwondo or boxing or whatever. And in the end, I truly believe, all the other, and then eventually when I moved out to California, one of my dream, but not one, the only dream I had, martial arts wise, I had two dreams when I came out of California. One is to learn about how to make films. Two is to study uh, with Guru Daniel Santo, and I got lucky again, and through some people I met, and I ended up studying with Guru.
Yeah.
But these it's the teachers that really impart on you um, the mental aspect, I believe, and the spiritual aspect of what you're studying. I think
Mhm.
that's more important than actually the physical. Not to
Absolutely.
sound,
Mm.
esoteric or anything like that. You can only go so far with physicality
Yeah.
to some degree.
Mhm.
Anyway,
It's here.
I don't mean to ramble, but
No, no, it's great. I agree with you. It's here. Martial arts is inner, and then outer is the expression of it, and it's the balance between the two. That's where it comes in. Um, it's great. And I want to get to you going back to Vietnam in a second, but I saw you recently. I was going. Scott Atkins has a wonderful series. If you guys are not watching it, you should. On his YouTube channel, where he speaks to a lot of the martial arts actors that we grew up watching and admiring. So, and I was watching him, and then I went through a bunch of his films that I had not seen yet, which I thought I saw all of them. Apparently, I didn't, so I caught up. I saw you in one of those. It was the martial arts wise, it was not a great film. But acting
I mean,
wise, I
let's
was.
be frank. It's not a good film at all. Don't even say great. But again, no insult to the filmmaker or anybody. It's one of those things that movie just didn't come together. But it's a movie that I get to meet Scott, and and
Yeah,
what a gentleman.
and I thank you. I didn't want to say that it's a bad movie, but it
Terrible film.
was yeah,
Terrible film.
it was bad. It was basically, oh, let's get Dustin, let's get Scott, let's get Gary Daniels, let's get a few other people, and we can make a movie. But they didn't really actually use a lot of those people in the ways that it's supposed to be. Oh, and Kane Kasugi is in there as well, who's
Yeah.
awesome. I like Kane. But what I was most impressed with, actually, from that movie, and the reason why I continued watching the film after I realized that it was no good, is is your acting. And I'm not trying to kiss ass, but in that movie, that's what I enjoyed. I'm like, oh, I didn't, because again, it was I watched it. Uh, no, I watched it after Warrior, and in Warrior you were really good, but they gave you a chance to actually act, and they spent a lot of time with you just from the acting, not a martial arts perspective, but just from the acting. And I'm like, wow, that's really good job. And that was the only part of the film, other than seeing Gary Daniels and seeing Kane and seeing Scott, that was enjoyable. But that was a really good part. So at least they gave you a chance to act. And I thought I didn't think of him purely on a dramatic actor side, but now I wanted to see more of the work that you have done just from the pure acting perspective.
Alan, it's because you brought it up, and this is not what you call it, false humility or anything, but I'm not anywhere in the same league as Kane Khashoggi and Scott Atkins and Gary Daniels. I mean, these are the real martial artist performers. The real deal. And I love martial arts, and I've been in the ring and I handle myself pretty decent. But what I'm saying is, I never, since the day I started acting, I never been an action martial art guy at all. I mean, it actually took a while for people to even let me do martial arts, and it was okay because I started out as an actor, and that's what I want to be the best actor, dramatic actor I could possibly be, and if I also get to do once in a while martial arts, because it is my second love, it's great. But in a case like this, you take a movie that we're talking about, um, I'm with these guys who are the top of their game, and that's what they do, and I also have to back up a little bit. The director is actually a good friend of mine, and he wrote the script for me, and I'm all about. I wrote the script. I saw the acting thing. I mean, it's. I didn't see an action film, and nobody sets out to. Nobody ever set out. I don't think so anyway. Hey guys, let's get together and make a bad movie. Sometimes things just don't work out. But
Yeah.
but for me, my part in it, and it does me, some good, to hear that, because my part in it, I felt like I could contribute the drama side of the script that was given to me at the time, and
Yeah.
the rest is depends on how the director wants to go and all that. But what I'm saying is, if you look at my resume, I would say in the United States, well, I was in Vietnam, I would say only 30% of my films has been martial arts action. Um, the rest is dramatic stuff. I've done dramatic films like Little Fish, which is a terrific film, and so on and so on. But my point is, for some reason, I occasionally people sort of think of me, and especially Warrior now, because it just, I guess it's such a strong impression, that I'm sort of the martial arts action guy, but I would never put myself in that category. You got, like I said, you got these wonderful guys, Michael J. White, Mark Dacascos. I mean, just wonderful, wonderful, gifted martial artists and actors. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's. I would love to work with these guys anytime, any day. Just the dedication that they put into it. But I didn't get the chance to really mingle with Kane Khashoggi so much, but with Scott, I got a chance to get to know him, and what a wonderful guy.
That's awesome. I big admirer of his. Scott, if you're watching, come on down. I've invited you at least 5 times already, so we can get to the show, man.
He's probably busy doing his
But
own podcast.
huh?
I say
He
he's probably busy doing his own podcast.
Well, Scott did an incredibly intelligent thing, and by the way, we're going to link Scott's YouTube channel below so you can watch it. But during the pandemic, Scott wasn't as busy shooting his stuff because he couldn't. So he did this, and he got a lot of the people on. He got Philip Ray on. He got Philip Ray is awesome, by the way. Best of the best is one of the other reasons why I got started with martial arts. But he talked to Gary Daniels. He talked to Kane. He talked to Dolph Lundgren. He talked to Michael J. White. He talked to like all of the people who I watch and grew up rooting for. So he did a fantastic job. But now he's busy, so I haven't seen kind of any episodes that he's been doing because he's shooting, which is what he's supposed to be doing. So Scott's great. And if Scott, the reason why you didn't come out to my show is because you're busy, no problem. But fit me in half an hour anywhere, any time of the day, you're on, buddy. Anyway, so getting back to kind of the true martial artists as we wrap this up, Warrior has incredible people kind of behind the scenes and the stunt team who are real martial artists. And then it has people who are in front of the camera who are excellent at martial arts. Joe obviously is a champion in judo, but in terms of in a real fight, in a hypothetical scenario where people got into a tussle, from the Warrior actors, who would you be worried about the most?
Worried that they would win.
That they can do damage. Somebody who's a best fighter out of the bunch.
In front of the cameras?
No, just in real.
Oh, they all are dangerous. Really, I mean, they all are dangerous. I mean, well, I mean, if you're going to talk about, Brett and his team, I mean, come on, I mean,
right.
we socialize a lot, and particularly with not just actors, but sometimes a lot of times we hang out with the stunt team and Brett, and when you go somewhere with them, not that we're looking for trouble or anything, but you just feel like, oh man,
I'm with them.
I got nothing to worry about, around me are just a bunch of guys that are deadly, and
Yeah.
if anything happens, I'll just get right in the middle and look and hide behind all of them. I mean, they all are, the stunt team, Brett's team, are just terrifically great guys and badasses. Joe Taslim, I mean, I can't say enough about Joe. I mean, he's another exciting martial arts actor, performer, name to watch. I mean, I don't have to. I don't think he has to prove himself anymore. Certainly, people like Joe, Andrew is incredible. I don't think Andrew minds if I say this, because I say it with all due respect. What I'm incredibly impressed and proud, if you will, not that he's my son or anything, not in that way, but what I mean by proud is to see this progression of someone from the first season who really, I mean, Andrew carries the show. I mean, the poor guy, he's working every single day. It's rare that he's not in any particular scene, but the way the production go, he works every single day, acting, doing lines, dialogue. If he's not acting, he's in second unit doing fights. I mean, he's the guy that really, more than earned his money. The rest of us work, 2 or 3 days a week or whatever. But he trains, and then that, and then of course the training while we're shooting. And for Andrew, he trains so much because he has one of those guys that has the desire and a commitment to do really good work. And I cannot tell you how many actors that I've worked with in my life where it's like pulling teeth to get them to show up for rehearsal, for fight scenes. You would think like, hey man, it's like, unless you're Bruce Lee, but even Bruce Lee, I'm sure he trained before he started film, and
yeah.
But I've run into actors like, oh man, I know martial arts and I've trained in this and I've trained in that, and when you do get them to show up, they do it for 10, 15 minutes and they want to go home. But my point is, you got a guy like Andrew, people like Andrew commits fully and he trains. So you see the progression, of somebody who's not necessarily a really badass martial artist into the second season where where the transformation and the accumulated experience and training, and he looks wonderful in second season, even more so than he did in first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's a real badass. Yeah, I mean, I just they're all are badasses, and even the ones who don't fight. Hoon Lee. He's a badass himself.
I know. Hoon is awesome.
And the gals.
I'm
I don't forget the gals too. I mean, Diane and
Olivia.
Olivia. I mean,
Yeah.
those two, they train too with us. They train every day with us.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's the part you talk about training. I looked at the videos and kind of you guys training, and me as an actor, me as a martial artist, I'm like, okay, I don't care if if I'm doing background. I don't care if I'm some Irishman that's going to get killed. I just want to be in that group. I just want to be in that gym training. I don't care if it's in South Africa. Sign me up. I'm going. So that was my thing while watching it. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's
really an inspiring environment. And of course, Brett Chen, he organized him and
yeah.
his team organizes this morning training, and I'm actually, if anybody, I'm the one that's probably the laziest. Not the laziest, but I really got to keep up with all of these young guys, and then I got to pace myself too because I'm not a spring chicken anymore. But when you're there for the training, it's that energy that just takes over, and you really, not that you're trying to compete and see who's the best and all that, but it just this sort of collective team energy, if you will, to achieve, good work. I think at the end of the day, because frankly, there's nothing in our contract that say you got to train 5 days a week. You
Sure.
know, and even then, like I mentioned to you, you can't make somebody train. So you see that in the spirit of the cast and all the members. Even we have some of the sort of office people, gals. Once in a while, will come and train with us too. It's infectious.
I'd be there day in day out. I wouldn't leave. They'd have to kick me out. That would be my kind of my thing. Anyway, and by the way, Perry, when I talked to Perry, who's awesome, he was mentioning, he didn't, get a chance to do a ton of fighting, but he was coming to the scenes. Whether he's working or not, he's going to the
That's
other
right.
sets,
I mean,
watching.
he trains every day. And like I said, I think it's the family, atmosphere that sort of motivates everybody.
Very cool. Listen, Dustin, I have about 50 more questions to ask you, and we can talk for another 2 hours. But I know we're about an hour, and people get mad at me when I do things longer than that. So we're gonna wrap up for now. But you're very welcome to come on anytime, so we can continue this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, if you like to do part two, we'll figure that out.
Anytime. Anytime. Let's schedule it, and we'll get it up for you guys. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Best of luck. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and we're signing every petition we can to get Warrior back on.
Thank
And
you. Yeah, thank you for that. By the way, I mean, it's just, I mean, everybody knows the story. That's why I truly miss everybody from the Warrior family, and it just felt kind of abrupt that all of a sudden we all
yeah,
kind of look. I mean, I've been doing this long enough. All good things come to an end sooner or later. But of course, everybody would love to regroup and continue this journey. For ourselves and for the fans.
yeah, and I have a feeling that it's going to happen. I know nothing. I have no control over things, but I have a feeling that it's going to happen. So hopefully it was just a break while everybody goes through a pandemic, and then we'll regroup and start over again. So
Wow, from your mouth to God's ears. So.
And to HBO's ears, HBO, if you're watching, make it happen. Seriously, people. This show needs to have a lot longer life for many, many, many reasons, which I've highlighted many times on the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Facebook group, love you guys. We'll chat with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.